All right, we're gonna rank my favorite zodiac signs. I've done this a couple times over the years, but I thought since I'm kind of like getting back into posting again, might be fun to check in because I have changed a lot in the terms of which signs I favor and gravitate to, or not so much. Um, by the way, some of these signs are spelled wrong, so I did not like make this. I'm just using it, so don't come at me. I know how to spell the signs. Aries, I'm gonna say B tier. I like Aries. I really like Aries. Like when I first thought about it, I get like warm fuzzy feelings. I love how outgoing they are. I love how real they are. Have I met manipulative Aries before? Absolutely. I've met actually many. But I love they can also be very transparent. They can also be so in your face, and I actually admire Aries. They are so action oriented and so confident, and so they have certain qualities that I may not always have. The reason why I didn't rank them higher is because they can be a little too impulsive. So depending on the situation, I may or may not want an Aries there for me. You know what I mean? Next is Taurus. I think, oh gosh, this is hard. I might put them next to Aries, because let me adjust the screen a little bit. Try and keep this ad out of here. Okay, Taurus, I feel like is on par with Aries, but for completely different reasons. They're almost opposite, kind of, right? Because I think Taurus is so grounded and so they're kind of perfect in a way, in my personal opinion, because they are responsible, but they also know how to have a good time. So, what more could you ask for, right? The only downside with Taurus is that they can be a little bit like, I think Taurus's beauty is their simplicity, right? And at least in a abstract way, I can admire that and value that and want to gravitate to it. But I think in practice, what I actually gravitate to is a little bit more complexity or more like darkness. I think Taurus can be kind of vanilla at times. Hopefully, I'm not offending anybody, but they're almost like they're kind of perfect, but they're almost too perfect, right? Like, I love like Aries, for example, is so dynamic, and there's more like maybe I just need a little chaos or a little, I don't know. So yeah, so all in all, really great signs. Maybe I should rank both of them higher. Hmm. Now I don't know. Okay, let's rank. Let's actually. Yeah, I'm gonna put these higher, and then I'm gonna put Gemini here, in the B tier. So Aries and Taurus in A tier, Gemini in B tier. I think with me assessing Gemini, I think it's one of those situations where I have enough of that energy already. I don't necessarily need more of it in another person. So, for instance, I've got Moon, Rising, and South Node all in Gemini, and I have a night chart, so Moon is very strong in my chart. Um, so yeah, I very much am Gemini. I think it can be a little awkward pairing two Geminis together because both of us will be very observant and very adaptable. We'll both be trying to observe and adapt to the other person, which, if that sounds awkward, it's because it is. Plus, both of us will be like overthinking everything. So I don't know. I think Gemini is one of those signs that gravitates toward signs that are different from themselves, different energies, different elements. I think the same is true for air signs in general, but especially Gemini and Libra. They're looking for signs different than themselves. They're usually looking for fire signs or like other strong-willed signs. So Gemini, I like Gemini. I just don't gel well with most Gemini placements. If you have Venus in Gemini, we will probably get along, but Sun, Mercury, not so much. Moon and Gemini, I can get along with. I love my fellow lunar Geminis. They tend to be, in my opinion, in my biased opinion, they tend to be very interesting. Um, let's rank Cancer next. So Cancer is difficult for me to rank because I have so much history with them. Out of all the signs, I've gravitated toward Cancer kind of the most over the years. I've had many very close Cancer friends, and so I'll put them in A tier. Um, Me and Cancer get along. They tend to, if I'm first meeting a Cancer, they tend to like me for some reason, and I'll usually be friends with pretty much anyone, kind of, sort of. Um, but Cancer, yeah, I love how female cancers in particular, I think, are very comfortable being emotionally vulnerable. I think it's a lot more difficult for a male cancer because, as a man, you're not. It's not as accepted for you to be emotional. So I think cancer men tend to be a lot more shy and more introverted compared to female cancers tend to be more outgoing. So that is a huge difference. But either way, though, I think cancer is very easy for me to understand. They have the outer shell that's harder, so that tough shell, they act tough, but then deep down they're softies. For me, that's pretty easy to understand and to kind of work with, if that makes sense. Yeah, and we seem to have a lot of shared ground for some reason. We seem to speak the same language. Um, the only issue is that I think I tend to piss off cancers eventually because they're very sensitive. When I'm comfortable with like a good friend, I will make all kinds of jokes. Some of those jokes might be funny, some of those might just be stupid, and I just say random shit all the time. And, going back to my Gemini placement. So I think I kind of tend to irk cancers after a while. My other kind of like criticism, my main criticism would be that I've observed, I believe, this is going to sound really offensive maybe, but I think cancers can be cowards sometimes. They will run away from danger, even if it means that someone they love has to pick up the pieces and deal with that. It may have been kind of like their responsibility, but they want to run away from that when times get hard. And that's honestly, that's kind of hard for me to empathize with. I find that to be, I don't know. I don't always like respect that, if that makes sense. So, but generally speaking, it's one of my favorite signs. Great sign, easy to get along with, gentle, kind. But yeah, there are those couple like very slight disconnects that I can kind of pick up on. Next is Leo. Leo's hard for. This is like maybe I gotta get back into this. These are hard for me to rank. Leo is a sign that on paper I really like, but for some reason I just don't tend to like click with Leos, or I don't tend to know a lot of Leos. I like how I think Leo is one of the signs that's easiest for everyone to like understand and get along with, generally speaking. I would say Aries, Taurus, and Leo are like very straightforward, pretty simple. They're easy to understand, right? And I appreciate that. Appreciate they can be very authentic. There's nothing I really dislike about Leo. I like how warm they are. They're one of the happiest signs, I would say. That I want to be happy, so that definitely gets points from me. Um, maybe it's kind of like Taurus though, where I'm looking for some more like complexity, or it's not that Leos aren't complex. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe Leo just comes across too straightforward for me, and I'm like looking for something more. I don't know. But for some reason, we don't tend to be drawn to each other. Next is Virgo. I'm ranking Virgo at the top. I used to not really like Virgo. I am a Virgo, Sun and Mercury. I used to really not care for the company of other Virgos, generally speaking. But as I've gotten a little older, I find that Virgo's easy for me to deal with, maybe because of my Virgo placements. But I find them generally easy to deal with because what I've noticed is they do have a kind of cold, like outer shell, so to speak, almost kind of like Cancer or Scorpio in a way. They've got that little bit of coldness or aloofness at first, but once you connect with them and you show that you are present and non-threatening and you're interested in speaking with them about whatever, I find that they open up really easily and they like having long conversations, and I enjoy how analytical they are. They are usually looking to talk about something interesting, right? So and the other thing too with Virgos is that they really get a bad rap. I think they have this really, really negative reputation. But I think if you actually go out and like ask people what their signs are and just meet them and have your own experience, you will find I guarantee you'll find that like most Virgos I think are pretty kind, pretty gentle. They're looking to help. They are wanting to conform. They don't want to offend anyone. I have met a couple Virgos out there that are like very intense and controlling and critical, but I think those are the exception, not the rule. So they have a bad rap, so that gets them points for me as well. Next is Libra. Libra's a lot harder for me to analyze because Libra is one of the signs that I've gotten along with the most over the years. But again, kind of like Cancer, I think we have a certain like disconnect. Libra can be so engaging, but to me, it's strange. You know, like I mentioned earlier, talking about Gemini, I'm looking for someone who I know what I'm dealing with. Like, because with myself, I'm so fluid already. Like, I can change, I can adapt my thoughts. You know, like if you take me out of context, I'm going to say totally contradictory things because it just kind of depends on the context, and I can see different sides of things. So anyway, so I'm looking for signs that might be kind of dynamic, but at the same time, I kind of want to know what I'm dealing with, right? So I love the authenticity and the directness of a fire sign like Leo or Aries, or even maybe an earth sign like Taurus or Virgo, right? They're just straightforward. You know what you're dealing with. With Libra, you don't know what you're dealing with. Like, Libra will make you think you know what you're dealing with. Libra is almost like a mirror. They are really good at almost, I don't want to say mimicking, but like kind of like acclimating to other people around them. And so that, honestly, that kind of freaks me out a little bit because you can be engaged with a Libra and, you know, having this great conversation, but deep down, they may actually not feel anything about what you're talking about. And so I've had to learn that over the years with Libra friends. Another issue is that, like, different, let's say, okay, like if I'm friends with Libras, I don't intend to, but I can start to kind of control and dominate the connection, and I have no idea I'm even doing it because they're just doing such a good job at going along with whatever I'm saying or doing, and so pretty soon, they may actually start to feel drained by different activities that we're doing or different things we're talking about, and I have no idea. I didn't mean, you know, I thought they expressed interest, and so I thought we were having a good time. Then later I find out actually no, they're not even into that. They were just going along with it, and they are starting to hate me. You know what I mean? So like, so Libra is so fun. It's so engaged. I think they can be so intelligent and so adaptable. I admire their social prowess, but I also have those kind of issues that I've kind of learned over the years with them, if that makes sense. One more thing too, Libra is like my fifth house, so we can have a lot of fun together. Don't get me wrong. But I've just learned those kind of issues, so to speak. Probably the biggest change with this ranking is I'm going to rank Scorpio pretty high. Scorpio used to be my least favorite, one of my least favorite signs, but over the past couple of years, I've noticed that I've really been, like, most of the people I've clicked with are either Sun or Moon in Scorpio for the first time in my life. So that being said, I think I'm going to rank them all the way at the top. You know, I love that I feel like I have a kind of newfound awareness with Scorpio. I knew about Scorpio somewhat before, of course, like as a practicing astrologer and content creator, like I could tell you all about Scorpio, but I didn't have a lot of really close friends or, you know, family members that had, like, Scorpio was the main sign that I didn't know anyone with major placements in that sign. I had connected with multiple Scorpio risings before, but no Scorpio sun, moon, etc. Like no one that was really close to me. So with these connections over the past couple of years, it's been really interesting to see kind of a deeper, you know, more, I don't know, to have that kind of like intimate familiarity. The main thing I love about Scorpio is that I can often feel misunderstood. Maybe I'm not good at expressing myself all the time. I can be a little shy or what have you. But with Scorpio, Scorpio is so, they have got that X-ray vision, right? And so I love feeling like I'm seen with Scorpio. That can be intoxicating to me. I also love how Scorpio tends to be a very counterculture energy. So like, Moon is in fall in Scorpio. Even Sun in Scorpio has almost kind of like a debilitated energy to it, even though it's technically not debilitated, right? So I also love that. I tend to love debilitated placements. I find them interesting, unique, humble as well. So that's another thing too. I love how Scorpio is simultaneously like super cocky and confident, but also kind of humble, just depending on the person, depending on the placement, depending on the situation. So I love that combination as well. Next is Sag. So Sag, I've become very familiar with as well. I gotta rank them at the top still. So Sag can be a handful for sure. They're a little bit like Aries. They're all over the place. They are too optimistic for their own good. They can be reckless. I understand all that. I've always been drawn towards Sag because my descendant and my North Node are there. So um, yeah, I love that they're the one sign that I can like relate to the most. Yet also they have so much different from me. So I like them. I can admire our differences, but I can also relate to them a lot as well. And what I mean by that is they are mutable and intellectual, like I am, multifaceted, so we can kind of speak the same language. But they are a fire sign as well, and they're ruled by Jupiter, so that's a lot different from what I am. I love that kind of expansive, that warmth, that confidence, that optimism. Love all that. Also, on a kind of theoretical, like astrological level, I love that Sagittarius is the only sign that is both human as well as like a beast, so to speak, an animal, non-human animal, and they're human at the same time. So I love that kind of dynamism of being intellectual and detached, but also animalistic and intuitive and instinctual. They have so much to deal with, and really, I think that can make for a cluttered and dysfunctional person or sign. But on the other hand, it can also make someone who's really multifaceted, someone really interesting, who has the potential to be really well balanced as well. So, yeah, I just find it to be a really interesting and deep sign, but also just very fun as well. Okay, next is Capricorn. Capricorn is these signs that, you know what's funny? The signs that I have the most history with, I think, are the most difficult for me to rank. So that would be like Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. Um, Capricorn is like family to me. I always say that because Capricorn does kind of run in my family somewhat. Not so much with, well, I do have like Midev in there, but when it comes to Sun, Moon, Rising, you know, that does run in my family. And I've also kind of just met many Cancers. I've had a relationship with a Capricorn. Excuse me, Capricorn, not Cancer. Anyway, so I've known a lot of people with Capricorn placements, and I'll put them in A tier. I think. I like how individualistic they are, how independent they are. I think I don't want to say I pity them. I admire them and I pity them. How about that? What I pity is like knowing that Capricorn is the first sign where the light starts to increase. It's like, you know, coming out of that darkest time, right? That in itself kind of explains why Capricorn is so focused on the future and on the long term. But I think for certain Capricorn individuals, that can be a trap where they can be taken advantage of. They're always working ahead toward the future. They don't, like, they're never getting satisfaction. Like, they're almost content never getting satisfaction. So I think that's what makes them so easy to be taken advantage of sometimes, or also just never, like, that's something that's hard for me to relate to. I want to have fun. I want to learn and have fun. That have always been two goals of mine. And with Capricorn, I think sometimes they forget about the fun and they're always working toward something that never comes around, right? So that's something where I don't necessarily want to live like Capricorn does. However, I do admire their independence, their individuality, their maturity. I admire that they like deal with problems on their own, which is something I don't do. Like, I want to run around and tell everyone when I have a problem. And I like that they kind of just suck it up and deal with it themselves. I find that to be very admirable. So yeah, it's just a sign that I'm very familiar with. I know very well. I know how to deal with them. I think they're straightforward. I just feel like I understand them on a really deep level. Next is Aquarius. I don't know why they spelled it with a C, but Aquarius used to be one of my favorite signs. I just don't know a whole lot anymore. I feel like I used to know more. So I'm going to say B tier. I like them in theory. I like how Aquarius is the last yang sign. It's like this last peak in the energy. Aquarius individuals tend to be very unique, very interesting. So that definitely gets them points from me. I like how I have a lot of air in my chart, but I am more Gemini, as I mentioned. So I like how Aquarius is almost like a more mature version of Gemini, kind of. They can be a little bit more consistent and a little bit more strong-willed, I think. So I do admire that. My only issue is that I feel like they're a little bit hard to reach. Like I can't quite reach them. I can't quite sense like where are they at. It's kind of like a more straightforward version of Libra in a way. Like Libra has this facade where they seem engaged, but deep down they're actually distant. Aquarius just seems straight up distant. So I mean, either way, I'm not really viewing as one better or worse than the other. I'm just saying it's hard to connect to you guys. But I do relate to you. I admire you in some ways. Yeah, I would like to have another Aquarius friend for sure to get this energy more like reacquainted to me on a more personal level. But right now I just feel like it's kind of distant. Okay, and then lastly would be Pisces. Oh gosh, this is tough. My connections with Pisces have been very few and far between. I've noticed like female Pisces in particular, for whatever reason, tend to be, at least in my like personal like physical experience, like meeting someone in person, they tend to be skeptical of me. Like there seems to be a huge disconnect between me and female Pisces for some reason. Male Pisces I've noticed tend to be a lot more like easygoing, at least in my personal experience. Anyway, but Pisces in general, I think it's the hardest sign for me to understand. I'm gonna put them in C tier because we just have a disconnect. Like I'm so analytical, I'm so Gemini, I'm so Virgo. What's interesting is Pisces is also mutable, right? Out of the four mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, and to some extent Sag are intellectual, they're analytical. So it's interesting, there must be some kind of connection with Pisces, right? Pisces is not analytical, it's not a human sign, but it is mutable. So my understanding is that they have a similar function that I do. It's just that, and I don't exactly understand the difference, so I might just hit a wall there. But I'm more thinking in terms of like ideas and concepts. I think that, like I've been told that they are seeing pictures. So it's like the same way that I would analyze with ideas and concepts, they're seeing pictures, they're seeing potentials, right? So I mean, I can understand that on a intellectual level, but actually relating to someone that's using that process, it's like we're using like two shadow sides of the same process. Like I'm on one side of the coin and they're on the other. So it's almost like we're both part of the same thing, but I can't quite see to the other side. You know what I mean? So it's not that I don't like them per se. I just don't favor them because there is that disconnect there. Honestly, I think I could probably understand any other sign better than Pisces because we just don't, like I could give a great reading for someone who has Pisces sun. Like I understand, like I could tell you all about Pisces on a textbook, like an astrological level. But when it comes to like me making friends with a Pisces, generally speaking, that's going to be more difficult because of our differences, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the way that this turned out though. I really like all the signs, and I'm aware that I think the signs that, generally speaking, if you dislike a sign, it's usually because you don't understand that energy. It could also because you had like maybe some traumatic experience with like one, or even two or three people from that sign. But generally speaking, I think it's a lack of understanding. And again, I'm owning that with Pisces. Pisces is the only one that gets a bad grade from me, so to speak. It's not a bad grade. It's just that we don't understand each other all the time, and that's okay. No signs are F tier for me. I like all the signs. I can get along with people usually regardless of their signs. So but yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. That was kind of fun. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.